Good start.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm going to call the Tremont Planning Board meeting of November 14th to order at 5:59 PM. Roll call. We have Lawson Wilson, Brett Witham, Beth Gott, Ben Harper, myself, Mark Good, Al Hale, the gang's all here, and Deputy CEO Katie Higgins, and member of the public. Okay, so I don't see any reason to adjust the agenda. We all set with that, folks?
Yep.
Okay, minutes, they look fine to me. So I'll take a motion.
I didn't catch anything in there, so.
What's that, you still looking at?
I looked at it and it looked good to me. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from October 24th as submitted.
Second.
Okay, Brett has a second. Motion and second on the table to approve the minutes of October 24th as submitted. Any discussion?
Are
Hearing none.
you
Oh,
taking minutes? Who's doing minutes now?
Okay, so this was actually Jesse because our recording went through, but you couldn't hear us.
Can you hear me in the back? Okay, so
So-
Jesse did this.
So Jesse went through and redid these ones. Normally, we do have a separate person doing them.
It's the same woman that's been doing it.
Heidi, I
Yeah.
believe.
Heidi.
Heidi Smalledge, yes.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yes.
Yep, great. Okay. Just
Okay.
curious if that.
All in favor of the motion? Unanimous. Thank you, folks. Okay,
Any reason why we didn't do a motion on the agenda?
to adopt it,
Yeah, we usually do. I mean, last month, I don't know if that's.
it was on there, yeah. If you want to do a motion to
I'll make a
jump,
motion
yeah.
to accept the agenda as presented.
I usually skip through that, it just seems.
I'll second Ben's motion.
Okay. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Okay, great. Okay, proposed land use ordinance changes. Our CEO has proposed some changes. We looked at some of them last time. There were some new ones in our packet this time. The sticky area, I think, is going to be net developable area, so I think before we get to that, let's look over everything else and get through what's going to be done very quickly, I hope. And to me, we'll go to, on the ordinance changes to the third page in this, so it's actually page 14. Under Harbor Shoreland Zone, single-family residential use and accessory uses, and he's crossed out no multi-unit residential uses permitted. I'm assuming that's just because it's redundant, right? It's redundant?
Indeed.
But also, wasn't there something about we need to allow multifamily?
Yes, I think that this is the only zone that did not, like if you look back on the page right before that residential use, residential has the multi, I think that might be one of the only ones that doesn't.
I still don't follow what's going on. Maybe it's just me, but.
And you were here last time, right?
What's that?
You missed last time?
I don't think so.
You were.
I don't think so.
He was here the first time we went over these.
Yeah, it's in the minutes that he was here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, sorry.
Were you going to say something?
Yeah, I am gonna say something.
Please do.
I guess, I don't, I don't know what the intent is or why we're doing this, frankly. If it is to comply with the law, fine. If it is to make a change to a land use ordinance that allows a different kind of use, I want to know why. And I want to know what the impacts are, and I want to know why we're doing that. Because I don't have that. And I guess I could try to noodle through all this and think it through, but I'm not going to do that, actually. I want to be told that.
Right.
And-
the person who's making,
But the person,
proposing these changes.
and it's not, I'm just saying, because we have a comprehensive plan right now that proposes some, changes in, potentially zoning, potentially. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm not saying,
Yeah.
it doesn't propose, it suggests that we might explore
That's a good
as
way
a
to say it.
town.
Yes.
Right.
Potential changes, and I feel like,
I'm totally
Like-
with you on that.
like, because one of the things I remember last time was that we were decreasing the amount of land needed to put a residential building on or something like that. I think that's one of the things we're doing. And so I was thinking about, I was like, well, maybe if you're trying to encourage growth, fine, but what kind of growth are you encouraging? Like, what does that mean that people could plop a couple cabins? Like, I just don't know. I just don't know enough about what I'm being asked to. I'm not voting on anything unless it's required by law. I'm telling you right now, I'm not voting on it unless I can understand exactly why we're doing it, what the consequences are down the
Right.
road.
I did talk to John about a couple things,
I'm sorry.
why he proposed these things.
Okay.
So I can address a couple of those things, but in this case, no, I can't.
Because
And I agree with you, that's what I said earlier today. I wish we had a memo that actually, no offense.
Yeah, it's not
Not you.
None taken.
I wish we had a memo a memo explaining exactly
yeah, this
why
change is
these
here, this
proposed
is why,
changes
this is
are-
what it does,
yeah. In some cases, it's easy.
to see that.
Like back in, about the permit from the planning board, because we don't issue permits, okay? There's two cases of that, and the proposed change is approval from the planning board. And that just totally makes sense to me.
That's page 31 and 32.
31 and 32, correct. And I think those are easy to deal with, because makes sense. And also on page 63,
Okay, fine.
that applicants is a state requirement now. Okay, so that satisfies Brett's test.
63,
Yeah, about
E.
yeah, all applicants developing within shoreline zone shall provide pre-construction and post-construction photos, blah, blah, blah.
okay,
Okay? That's
so
a
I-
state requirement now,
okay.
according to our deputy CEO.
I do have a copy of it as well.
Okay. And this is worded exactly the way that is, correct?
Correct.
That's what you said the last time?
Correct.
Okay, yep, okay.
I took it straight from what they gave me.
So I think those three are fine, those three
Sounds good.
changes
Yeah,
right
yeah.
off, okay? The other one, before we get to net developable area, which is a whole different thing, under, it's on page 16 here, so the third page, and under commercial fishery maritime activity, 20% residential, and 70% on the lot coverage, I'm talking about. Page 16.
16, yep.
Yeah, okay. John's theory is that brings it in line with other zones. The 70% would stay for non-residential, so like a boatyard or, maritime use.
That, I think, to me, falls into the substantive change category that impacts density, residential density in the shoreline zone, in the CFMA zone.
Yep,
And I think I would like to consult the comp plan, and/or wait for the comp plan to be ratified.
I was also gonna suggest that on a couple of these that we table them until we actually get some real information of why these changes are proposed.
Being made.
So either more information from John Larson, or until we have a comp plan that's been approved by the voters that we can then go back to and sort of cite some point of the comp plan that either supports or does not.
I too hesitate to make any substantial changes before the comp plan is adopted.
And just, maybe I should understand this stuff better, but I don't. Lot coverage, I think that means that the coverage of development, like a building.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it used to just say,
It used to be
Used to
70%
70%
for residential
maximum.
or commercial.
okay, and so now,
John's suggesting that if it's a residential use,
it's 20?
it has a lower density, lower.
You can only have
You
a
need
small,
bigger backyard.
right, you can have a small building.
Smaller building.
But could you have both? Could you have 70, so could you have 70% of it being used for,
For
a
commercial.
maritime
For
activity,
your
and then
boatyard
20%
and then your house next to it?
Is that,
I don't know. Maybe,
Well, he's also proposing the same thing in the Harbor Shores Act.
yeah, I saw that. I guess I don't know.
So I guess that would also be dependent on how large the lot is, because they wouldn't be able to cover with both if they don't have enough square footage to begin with.
Because the residential is, what's the minimum? Is it still 40,000? So,
Yeah, 40,000, yeah.
so you would need,
So
that doesn't
75%.
even make any,
and this is maximum lot coverage, so for residential, like, basically you can have 10,000 square foot house on an acre. That's your 20, is that right? No, 5,000 square foot house, 20% of 40, about 5,000?
Yeah. Oh, an acre's worth 43,000.
25% lot coverage on
Residential.
oh, that's RB.
For RV. All right, that's easier math. So yeah, that's a 10,000 square foot house on your 40,000 square foot lot. And yeah, or you can have a great big boathouse, warehouse, or
Yeah, 70%, yeah, you can, I mean, I get the part where, I could see where for commercial fishery, you're just gonna have big buildings, right? So I could see where you would want, you'd be able to fill the space up, right, as big as your land.
Right.
Get that. I guess I just don't understand, so residential means that would be, minimum lot for residential, okay, there is still a lot standard for residential, so you can still have residential, but it goes down to 20%. I guess, I just don't know what that means, like, what is that what it was before, is that kind of the default,
The
or?
20%?
Yeah, no, so what would
No,
have
it's a
been?
change because it's
Change.
70% now. It's a change to reflect what it is in other zones.
Okay.
for
So the
residential.
70% would have been, how would that have been interpreted before? It could have just, for
You
both?
could have a house that
You could
big.
have- you
Yeah.
could- you
You could have a giant mansion.
That
a
big?
30,000 square foot house, which is unlikely in Tremont, but that's.
Right, only because it falls in, which to me is not the right result if it falls in the commercial fishery maritime.
Is that where we
Right.
want our mansions?
Right, I mean, that doesn't make sense.
But maybe it's, and what I don't know
There's
is.
a weekly rental for you. Think how many bedrooms you could have in that place, huh?
Well, what I'm backing into here is maybe I agree with this one, I don't know.
Yeah, and if you want like multifamily density, but it's probable that at that point you're talking about a commercial use, not a residential use, if you're more than 3 units.
Yeah,
I mean, I think that's a more likely scenario. Not that you're gonna build one 30,000 square foot house, but you might try to build 4 8,000 square foot houses, or
right,
16 4,000 square foot.
yeah.
And
So you're saying you like the residential limitation then, potentially?
I'm saying that we should not.
I'm calling it a limitation, but
I'm saying that we should not make that change.
Right now?
Right now. Because I think that what we want to do first is establish what our vision or goals are for those zones, for the comp plan. Then say, okay, what we want to do is promote dense housing, if that's what we want. I don't know, and once we do that, then we can figure out, all right, well, what's the right changes to our ordinance that promote what our goals are. I don't think that I know that we as a planning board haven't defined what our goals are. So I don't think we should go making changes about lot coverage.
So we really don't have to come up with anything for selectmen before February.
Well, you know, I will say let's go back up to the, just residential, just a residential, okay?
Yep.
And I was that in the RB before? I think I
Well,
was in the
RB is on this.
So
page, but-
residential only is 20%.
Right.
So it's kind of tracking it's,
Yeah, and I think John's argument is that it aligns these zones with the rest of town.
He did also
Yes.
bring up that there shouldn't be a mansion of that size, that is why they went with the residential down to that.
yeah, that's the thing, because you could put, at 70%, you could put a mansion in the, and then put like a little fish shack next to it.
Yeah.
And call it like, call it commercial CMSA or whatever.
Put a few lobster traps out on the porch.
A little tiny bait shack and then a massive mansion, so
It'd be a great cat town.
Right. I mean, yeah.
like, I don't know if anyone has that kind
Don't
of,
give
like.
anybody ideas now.
I know. Yeah, I know. I don't know, I'm actually coming around on that one.
I don't really have a problem with that one.
It's taking me a little bit to get there, thanks for bearing with me, and I know you're not there yet, but I'm just trying to, 20,000, 20%.
How about down this end of the table? Any thoughts on that?
No, he's doing a good job of
Going through it.
going through it, making more sense of things.
That's why he gets paid the big bucks.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of think it makes sense. You look at, and I'm looking on page 14, at the top, it says structure standards, that's the end of the residential zone, and the last thing is 20% lot coverage. And it is kind of, it's interesting, because I just don't know without that there, what does it mean? Like, what does it mean on page 16 to say 70% maximum? And I think if you don't differentiate, it could be, and it does say you could have residential.
Right?
It's there under lots, under.
In the commercial fishery maritime act?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you could have a little bait shack with a mansion. Which I don't know if anyone would ever do that. I don't even know if people have that kind of land on the water in that zone. I doubt it, but it's possible. I would be okay with that one. But that doesn't mean, And then I guess, does the same logic apply to, what's the other one? Is that the only one like that?
It's in
No.
two zones. It's harbor, shoreland, and.
Harbor
and-
shoreland,
and
so what did that say? That
commercial
was the
fishery.
same kind of thing,
Same
right?
exact thing.
Yeah, it's basically the same thing there.
And when you look at the color of it, what
Yeah, and just thinking about the sort of neighborhoods that we're talking about, which is,
is it the
Bass Harbor, it's the red and the blue.
red and the blue?
Which is hard to see from here, but you can sort of think of it as the area closest to the harbor.
I think that's the intent. I bet that was the intent, because I bet whoever drafted this thought, well, for residential, you would refer back to the residential, you'd have to refer back, you should refer back to page, 13 anyway.
I don't think so,
You think that they meant to say 70% and that people could,
because it's a different zone. And, because the other interesting thing is that zone is where we have the smallest lot sizes. So the other, which are
you just
probably
think-
not conforming.
I think they just couldn't do it.
Well, I just came from dinner at my mother-in-law's house, where we was down on Earl's Way, which I actually think is just outside of the zone. But she's on this tiny postage stamp, 0.1 acre.
Oh, so you're saying the
And-
land's too small for
And
it to
her,
be.
and her house is probably more than 20%.
That's
of
the
her
other thing
land.
we don't know, yeah.
And so I think it's probably a non-conforming lot.
It's I was just gonna say.
But that
it's
would be
non-conforming,
grandfathered.
Sure.
But what I don't understand is, if it's a non-conforming lot, do you just do whatever you want, or does the 70%? Do you have to stay within 70%, or
Well,
would you have to be
look at the
20%?
standards for non-conforming buildings or non-conformance. It's obviously not as easy as I thought it was gonna be.
Yeah, I don't think it's. I mean,
Page 52, the land use ordinance, it begins with.
Thank you.
I mean, I don't think you could do, I think with not, my simple sense of how non-conforming works is that you're kind of frozen in time. You're just
Yeah,
frozen
yeah,
with what you have.
yeah.
You can't do anything anyway.
Yeah, yeah.
Right, so like,
It can't be taken
she
away.
can
but you
renovate her
can't-
house, but she's not gonna be
I
able to
think you gotta
add.
stay in the same footprint.
Right.
Same footprint.
Be
Right,
grandfathered.
right.
Okay, so the other, her house aside, I think the other interesting thing about that zone, and this would be like a major change, is maybe we wanna address the minimum lot size. If we wanna talk about density, which I don't think we wanna do tonight. I think we wanna wait until we have a comp plan that gives us some direction. Because it's possible that we don't want 40,000 square feet in the harbor shoreline zone
For residential?
for,
Well, for,
the
I guess
lot
what's the
stand, the
lot
minimum lot
size?
area per residential dwelling or non-residential structure is 40,000 square feet. Yeah, I'm looking on page 14.
Yeah, that's right, yeah,
Shoreline.
15, yeah, bottom of page 15 for CFMA.
CFMA, it's the same, that's right, is that, right. Oh, I see, but there's no minimum, for CFMA, there's no minimum lot size.
There's no minimum lot size for that, yeah, the CFMA piece of it.
Which is all just telling me that, like, this is actually kind of complicated. Like,
Wait, there's minimum lot size? Oh,
not for non-residential.
oh, for non-resident, yes.
Right, so if
you're
you want a
yeah.
little fish shack, you can do that in the CFMA zone, which I think that makes sense in terms of like what we're trying to promote in that zone. And we're trying to not promote residential, which is why the minimum lot size is 40,000. But there's just a lot of these different layers.
Well, it must
that
be, you know, it must be, well, this is interesting too. If you look at FMA 1B, you know, obviously 1A is allowed. It's all maritime commercial uses. Marinas, C is all functionally water dependent. So B would be
Accessory uses.
non-maritime. Accessory uses, accessory transit. So how could you even have, so would the residential be
It has to be.
a
an
non-maritime?
accessory use.
Yeah, yeah,
It has to be accessory use to an existing.
less than
maritime
2,000
commercial.
square feet.
in building area?
Right.
In building
Total
area.
Building area, that's not just lot coverage, that's like,
Right, that's, you can only have a.
that's a
So
single-family
maybe-
home, that's a small single-family home.
Yeah,
Um,
so that's another limitation, frankly. You could not put a mansion, if I'm reading that right. Like, you couldn't do that, because you're
No,
limited to
accessory
2,000.
use, okay.
In
Well, up to
CFMA,
a two-
in a
yeah,
harbor
2,000
shoreline, you
square
can.
feet, yeah.
Total building area, that's it.
Right, so that's the red, the bright red, that's the CFMA, there's no mansions there. But the blue,
There are.
there are,
Is that the harbor? Is
In
that
the
the
harbor
harbor
shoreline,
shoreline?
yeah, yeah.
What does it say there?
following uses are allowed. I'm like,
Single-family
1A.
residential. Yeah, single-family residential, it's right there.
Yeah,
It's 1A. So then you do get into the, you
and
get,
so there, you could have you could cover your lot with 70%. With a big,
well, no, you only, well, but you are limited to 3,000 square foot building.
Up to, yes.
Yeah. It's a little bit bigger than the,
yeah,
3,000 is the non-maritime commercial use.
that's right,
Yes.
for the residential, yeah.
No, it doesn't say anything about residential one.
the
Well,
single
but-
family residential, it could be as big as you want.
Oh,
Residential is-
oh, yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
that's commercial, yeah, it's not
So-
maritime
that's
commercial uses, so.
Okay, oh, yeah. So so there wouldn't be no limitation there, yeah, you could, so those would be the, and then you go down to, 2A, yeah, 40,000 square feet. And that's all, which is lot cover, which is the lot size, but there's no limitation on the, size of the building, so,
And for maritime commercial uses, you can have small lots, but for residential, you have to have big lots.
there is a symmetry to me that sort of makes sense to say that, you know, a residential lot coverage is the same across, you know, no matter what zone you're in. I mean, I don't, to me, is there any difference anywhere else? Let's see.
I don't think so.
but I think that our comp plan, one of the things we talked about in our comp plan were like developing town centers. I don't remember exactly what the language was around there, but the idea that we would treat quote unquote downtown differently than we treated the suburbs or the rural areas. We don't right now. Maybe we could.
What's considered downtown?
Well, and that word I don't think comes up in the comp plan. That's my own description of.
Southwest Harbor.
Right, yeah. There were like 3 clusters, like even like the Kellytown loop was one cluster.
It was, this was one area, yeah, the,
Sort of triangle.
yeah, the triangle area.
Triangle,
Yeah, lot coverage for a residential business is different, it's 25%.
Yeah.
But is that for that would be for the whole building, right? Because it's all one, or, here.
For a structure.
Would that be for the whole building? Or be,
I think the lot coverage.
Or it could be several buildings. I mean,
Right.
my neighbor
It's
has
like
a
the total
bunch of
roof.
buildings in the boatyard there.
Roof footprint or whatever, like, you know,
I believe you're correct.
you add up all the roof lines and. See where they're at.
yeah, I mean, I think the problem, I'm guessing the compromise there, or the thread in the needle is saying, look, we want people to be able to have the same, basically the same size residence, but permit a business use that's, not substantial. So you get the 5%, you get basically if everyone's gonna have a house the same size, whatever, or the same lot coverage. But,
Yeah, why would you allow a larger house in these
and then see if,
zones than in other
you
zones?
you would not.
Yeah,
You would not. I mean, that's kind of why.
and that's what's happening here by
That's what's-
going to the
I
25%.
bet it's not, I bet as a practical matter, it's not feasible to do it because of the way, but someone could probably put a piece, someone could at some point. If you could get lots, you could put a bait shack there and a mansion under 70%, and stick your walls right to the edge of the property, and then someone could do the same thing and
There are
eventually.
setbacks, you gotta,
Well,
setbacks
yeah,
don't
you know what I'm
apply.
saying.
But yeah,
yeah.
right, and 50 feet is not that big of a setback.
Yeah.
Like, it would feel
No, that's,
close in our,
yeah. And I've seen that in certain communities. I think down in Wells, aren't some of those beachfront
Oh, sure.
zones, they're
Oh,
all like
absolutely.
that.
Right,
Yeah, they're kind of like,
Yeah, yeah.
there's like just an alleyway in between
Right.
the
Yeah.
two buildings.
totally.
Yeah, I'm coming around on that one, but
I'm okay with that one.
I don't know if we're all
Lawson's
convinced, but yeah.
because Lawson's
We
taking
can
the
move,
comp plan,
on.
comp plan.
But I don't know how are we gonna handle these?
Okay.
Do you wanna do?
First of all, we don't have to get anything to selectmen before February.
Okay.
I believe. That's the way we did it with the campground stuff and everything. It would be good to check
I at least understand kind of the logic behind that one. Whether you agree with it or you think there could be some unintended or it mucks up other things, but I at least understand it. So,
Right.
yeah.
I was hoping we could check a couple of these ones off that I thought might be easy.
Well, then we did those right away. The permit versus approval, right?
Yeah,
And then the one required by law.
yeah, there's that, okay.
Yeah. 31, 32.
So we can hold off on this, do you want to find out more information, why John is suggesting this, or do you think? I think it's clear to me
get it
across
now.
the
It
board.
took me a little while, but I also understand, I get it. I would probably vote yes for that one if I was asked to vote.
You
Right
folks
now.
agree down there,
And
sir?
I'm writing okay here so I don't forget it the next meeting and come back and say, I don't want to, we're not doing this.
That's the conversation.
Can we get him to sign something here saying, I will not change my mind? Okay, can we move on?
Yep.
Okay. Okay, what else was in here? I don't want to do the developable area yet. Is there another one? Oh, the no multi-unit residential use is permitted?
Oh, yeah, let's go back to that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I heard it was redundant, and then I also heard something different.
Single-family residential use and its accessory uses. Okay, that's Harbor Shore Land.
And I think this was the conversation Jesse had, we had with Jesse last time about a new state law that says that anywhere a single-family residential is permitted,
Okay.
it should also be permitted.
Okay, yes, this is, okay.
I think I
Yeah,
remember
if
that
you
too.
look, yeah, now no multi-unit residential use is permitted. By striking that out, it would allow for some, it's not redundant, I was wrong in saying that.
Yep, I think I remember that now, you saying that. I think it's a state law, so whatever. Okay.
Yeah, so, yeah, we're okay with that one.
I'm not okay with it, but it's state law.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. He also has some, on this new thing here, some, few things added to the table of land uses regarding solar collectors and some definitions. When I spoke to him today, the roof mounted thing, he said a lot of people, they've been getting a lot of calls, people asking, do I need a permit to put solar panels on my roof? And this would say, no, you don't need a permit. What?
Chuckling because it seems to me as a builder and a contractor, you should absolutely need a permit to do that. But as a resident of Tremont, I recognize that most things you don't need permits. There are a lot of things we don't need permits for.
But interestingly enough, if
On
you
the
do the
ground, you do?
ground mounted thing, which he considers a structure,
Yep.
he's asking for CEO approval rather than going through the planning board. So in other words, if you
So
just build
personal
a stand out in the yard with,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, if I was gonna build a big garage or a big woodshed, I would also need CEO approval.
right, yeah,
And
yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
To me.
Yep.
Yep.
Now, he also has solar power generating system. Now, if you recall, we had a discussion about these solar farms throughout and never went further with it. And the way he has it here, planning board approval, so we would just, I said.
We'd make it up as we go, we'd make it up as we go along.
I said, what about standards? Okay, he said, well, you would use the standards that, would be site plan approval, review ordinance and the LUO, okay, what we already have. Though, to me, I think there should be special standards for a solar farm if we're gonna allow them at all.
Yeah, I mean, I would think you would need to have, if you're gonna tie back into the power
Fencing
grid,
and-
you're probably gonna need to have some state or some other approval too, from the power company or something, or can you just?
Well, yeah, the power, should accept it, there should be that, or the use of the power somehow, but,
I think we
there are
would
things
have a-
there's
we could
things
work
like
on it.
fencing and stuff like that, that we talked about when we were having these discussions, that if
Buffering.
we're gonna allow this, and buffering, that should be in there, of course, buffering standards would still apply with what we have now, but.
Treat it like a commercial project.
I guess, I don't like just saying planning board approval without developing standards of some kind.
I guess we would treat it sort of the same way we would treat if somebody was gonna build a pavilion. A ground mounted pavilion. Like take, just like ignore the solar panels, just imagine a bunch of posts in the ground with a roof over it
Okay,
and say it's a picnic pavilion
Yeah,
for
you're
10,000
probably
people.
right. I mean, do we really care about the,
That it's generating power or not.
Okay,
And
hold on.
And I think we probably could review that under our current ordinance.
Well, you could review it under the ordinance, but, okay, you're talking about something that's generating electricity. So you want little kids wandering in there with no fence and that sort of thing? I don't.
I'm not saying we should
Okay.
review it under our ordinance. At first, my
And
first
under,
reaction was
under
like,
the current
we have no
ordinance, if
idea
you
what
would
we're doing.
allow these, none of that stuff would apply.
That's correct. I think, it would be hard to imagine any, like, I don't know the ordinance by heart, but it's hard to come up with anything that would make us say, oh, that's not, you gotta change the design. You get setback, that would be pretty clear.
Setbacks and there'd be buffering, but, as you know, you can just plant a few trees.
Yeah,
That's not stopping anybody, and
right. And there might be state regulations and stuff about fencing, and I don't know those.
I don't know if there is. Yeah. That's a good question.
I guess there can't be too much. This array doesn't have a fence around it.
So
On a town land.
that'd be a good question to find out if there are any state regulations. regarding
Is
that.
anyone, is there something coming that we don't, is someone gonna put a solar?
No, nothing.
To
And,
be
and
honest with you, I think his plan is to try to get everything as set up for me as he can before he leaves.
Okay.
yeah, checks out. But as you recall.
I'm just curious if there's anything.
You recall when we had discussions with Climate to Thrive, they specifically said our grid is not up to date
It's
enough
not.
to accept solar farms at this time.
They
So-
seem to be working on that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, well, it's coming, yes, it's coming.
There's also been issues in Southwest Harbor with this, so I think there was preparation in that way as well.
I think that what I would suggest is, I think this is fine to say like, yep, send it to the
For
planning
now,
board.
yeah.
For now, we'd review it with our ordinance as it is. And when we do substantive changes, I guess I'm proposing that once we have a comp plan in place next May, we then start.
You're assuming something
That's true.
that may not happen.
That's right. But if the comp plan goes forward, then we can step back and say, all right, we want to make these changes to the ordinance, one of which is including addressing solar and addressing sort of.
But where in the comp plan does it even address that? It doesn't.
I'm not sure it does, but why am I wanting to kick the can down the road? I guess just because I'm a procrastinator. We could also just address solar now, or use this lull this winter to resurrect the conversation we had last winter and put something.
Yeah, we'll tie it in with short-term rentals and see how that goes.
Exactly. How about you can have short-term rentals as long as they're in a solar field?
Solar field?
That's right. You have to have 40,000 square feet, 70% of your lot has to be covered by solar panels.
Anyway, I think it's probably, I personally think it's fine. We'll have to, as it is, the way,
The planning board.
I think it would have to be. Well, I mean, so our options would be not to mention it at all, right?
Right.
Just not even have
And,
it.
and someone comes to.
Yeah, and then you
the
don't, and then
town
you really
says,
don't
"I
know
wanna
what to do.
this."
Yeah,
What happens then?
right. That's what I mean.
Then, to me, it would be a commercial operation.
Right.
It'd be under 13C. It would fall under there, and depending on what zone you were in, you'd either need to go before the
That's-
planning board, or you just
that's
couldn't do
true.
it.
13C.
I think that's right. Am I reading that line
13C
correctly?
commercial.
I believe so.
Yeah,
You
which,
know, and which is sort of a catch-all for things that don't fall into some other category.
and there's only 3 zones there though, that it'd be. He has it across all zones.
And so,
Yeah, I don't think we'd want that like in the commercial fisheries maritime or
What does no
harbor
mean?
shoreline zone.
What does no mean? No means you can't do it?
no means no.
Well, that's what I thought at
No
first,
means
but
no.
he's saying, don't know, you don't need a permit, but.
Excuse me.
Well, under 13C, there is a no,
I think it should be no, yeah, I don't think should be no.
no under SP, a no under RP, a no under LR, PB for RB. I'm reading this right. A no for R. I mean, I assume those are the zones. Yeah.
Yeah.
CMFA, PB 15, I don't know how it's a footnote probably, I guess. Functionally.
So it should be no with a foot, no
Well, I would
permit
think like, so
required.
SP is
Shoreline protection?
shoreline protection. Would we have a solar power generating system in shoreline protection?
Were you looking?
Well, see, he's got planning board all the way across, but I think some of these would probably be no.
Yeah, I agree, that you shouldn't allow it in all those zones, yeah, I would agree with that.
But to figure that out, you need to go and then, you know, actually. I guess for now, you could do it like that, and if it came to the planning board, we could conclude, our decision could be no, based on the zone.
It'd be,
Yeah,
If
can
it's-
you say appeal?
Yeah, I mean,
that could set us up problematic, I mean,
well, what else do you do? You
If
can
it-
say no now.
Right,
But you've
that's
gotta
what we
go,
could do.
you've gotta go
Right.
through the, well, I guess we could, do you wanna try to figure that out?
Or
We
sending-
could.
We have
Well,
time, unless we have a whole bunch of projects coming, which I don't think we do,
Not to my knowledge.
yeah.
So let's see what these are.
To look at
Shoreline-
it and determine what zones we feel it might be appropriate.
Yeah.
To my knowledge, we only have one thing coming up.
That's a subdivision, what can't I think of the name, Live Art subdivision.
Oh, I didn't even know about that. So maybe we have two. No, I know about some construction that they wanna do down at the old, was it Morris Yacht down here by the ferry terminal?
Yeah,
They wanna fix
Oh, the-
that, put in the
The
new,
old cold storage building?
Yeah.
Yeah.
they
They
wanna
wanna-
do, what do they wanna do?
fix the wharf that's existing there. They're going through the DEP and getting the permits they need
Yeah,
at the moment.
yeah,
or a rule and such. But they wanna widen out the boat ramp there, and, because I think they're planning on using the facilities again.
Hmm.
But that's the only thing I knew about.
yeah.
Yeah, they came to the Harbor Committee last month
Yes,
to present that,
yes.
Are you in the Harbor Committee too?
unfortunately. So I was thinking, Jesus, if we had it this meeting, why can't they remember it? Then said, oh no, that's the Harbor Committee, sorry.
You don't, never sure what meeting you're at, huh? Good thing you got off the appeals board, huh?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I wanted to point out another thing. If you look under the definition for residential solar collector, it said requirements for one residential dwelling. Okay, what if you have an accessory dwelling and you want to power it by the residential solar collector? I mean, that should be allowed. I don't,
although at that point, well, that's interesting.
Well, but you're, so, or the way this is written, it says it's used to power, or, you know, or transform energy of a residential dwelling. And you're saying that maybe you don't, maybe you just want.
requirements for one residential dwelling. Am I missing something?
And if I wanted to
So if
power
I-
2 or 3 or 4 residential dwellings?
So if yeah, let's just say I have a weekly rental house next to me, and I want to power both of them with the same generating system, solar generator.
Well, could you say a residential dwelling as well as any, what do you call, accessory, I don't
An
know.
accessory, yeah. Something like that, yeah.
Putting the cart before the horse here. We're
In what
trying-
way do you think?
Well, I mean, I just feel that there has to be some structure or some ordinance to guide us into what.
The last one,
Yeah.
yeah,
and
yeah.
it's-
But this residential, what I'm talking about, this definition doesn't apply to that.
Okay.
That's a different
I
definition.
mean, to me, RB
That's,
is a no.
that definition is right here, it's solar power generating system.
Oh, I didn't even.
Residential
Yeah.
is a no.
RV to know?
Residential buildings for For a
I'm talking about
solar
if
power
you-
generating system?
Let's say you had a small apartment next to you.
I mean, that's like the whole-
Yeah,
Yes,
building,
I-
a separate
yes,
building,
I-
yeah.
of course
So
it is.
RB
Yeah, you want to
is
be, but this seems to
predominantly-
limit it to one in my
RB
mind.
Yes.
is predominantly residential.
How about a
Oh, okay, wait.
gravel pit?
Yeah, maybe RB is okay, actually. Predominantly residential, but may contain some stuff. Yeah, RB is okay. RB would be the planning board.
What are you talking about?
I'm going through the yes, no stuff here. Residential's no, obviously.
Oh, for the solar farm?
Yeah.
Okay,
I'm just making my notes on this.
yeah, that's a good idea.
Harbor shoreline land zone. Mixture of maritime, non-maritime, commercial and residential uses. HSC. Or I guess that's just H on our map. That one's I don't know yet. So CFMA is a no, right? I mean, there's just no way. For a
In
commercial.
Harbor Shoreline too, don't you think, or not?
I think so. It's gonna be within 250 feet of shoreline. Do we really think we're gonna have a solar farm on the ocean? You can imagine what that would look like with the
On our harbor, it'd be, just bring the whole harbor.
yeah, with solar panels.
The sun reflecting off blinding fishermen coming in?
I think that's H, right? Is that H?
Yeah, Harbor Shoreland?
Yeah, is that
Yeah.
the H?
Yeah.
Limited residential. Shoreline.
SP is stream protection.
Yeah, I know, stream protection. Yeah, that's, so limited residential is a no as well.
Yeah, no commercial.
Stream protection has to be a no.
But resource protection, yeah.
I don't know, do you think that's a? It's certainly a no for commercial.
Yeah, so there we go. That's a no.
Yeah, I think that's a no. So
Island protection.
RR. Rural residential. I think that's residential only in home occupation, so that's a no.
Very.
So then you've got IP, what is that?
That's island protection.
Island protection?
Yeah, we have an island protection zone.
So that's a no. So the only,
The only thing is residential business.
I think that's the only thing, it's the RB zone. That would be maybe.
Yeah, that makes
Which
sense according to the way
aligns
the ordinance
with-
is now, yeah.
Mostly
Commercial.
aligns with commercial
Except
except,
for the
yeah, the
harbor.
CFMA, which is because of the maritime. That's the note, that's note 15 is probably the maritime thing. Yes, functional water dependent. And then the 5, maritime, yeah, so, yeah. So it's actually no for everything except RB.
Makes sense. Yeah, we went through that pretty quick. Way to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right, we done?
No, unfortunately, we got the elephant in the room here. I believe. Net developable area.
So I actually had something brought up to, well, Jesse had it brought up to him by Noel Musson. If you read in the definitions, the lot area,
Yeah, that's,
That covers pretty much everything the lot developable area was trying to.
some of it, yeah, that's page 12 of the land use ordinance. Right at the top, land below this is actually lot coverage for general zone standards. Land below the normal high water line of a water body or upland edge of a wetland, and land beneath roads serving more than 2 lots shall not be included toward calculating minimum lot area for lots created since May 1992. I mean,
Oh, yeah.
what
That's effectively
What
it,
he's
right?
proposing for
That's
net
essentially
developable
it.
area does include some other things, though. But if you look at his definition and how to calculate it, I saw some things weird, like hybrid soils is defined in this code, and then portions of the lot which contain prime farmland is defined, neither of which we have defined.
Is
And
this-
I got to looking, he mentioned that, Surrey and Hancock both have this net developable standards. I didn't look at Hancock's, but I looked at Surrey's, and he basically just cut and pasted Surrey's.
So this is not a state law requirement.
No, he cut and pasted what Surrey uses, and that's why it says
So-
hydric soils is defined in this code, because they call it Surrey Code of Ordinances.
Yeah. So why are we doing this?
He thinks that, and correct me if I'm wrong, that because of this 20,000 square foot standard, state standard, you need that much for a
But the state standards.
waste
that are-
disposal,
is-
waste disposal, some sort of, septic system. That if your septic system goes bad and you only have a 40,000 square foot lot, and a few things out of there, you can't build another septic system. But is that our problem, the planning board, first of all? And second of all, you may be able to use some of that septic area anyway.
Of course you can.
Yeah.
Beth knows.
Yeah, you just dig it up and you.
So the
replace
so
the
soils
thinking
and-
is here, the state has a minimum that,
You need 20,000 square feet.
right,
So,
and ours is 40,
yeah,
and we're on a big rock.
so essentially what this does is it's increasing
Yeah.
lot size.
Well,
It can, and if any kind of wetlands or any of these other things that he has is in the area calculation. Slopes greater than 20%, blah, blah, blah.
but we're not talking about changing the lot size, right?
This would, because in that you need the 40,000 square feet.
But then with it,
But
you do all these
You do all the
calculations.
calculations, and let's say you have a 40,000 square foot lot, you want to put a house on there, you do all these calculations, you may find you need a larger lot size because of the things you have to deduct from the 40,000 square feet.
Right, but, so but how does that dovetail with what this?
The 20,000
Yeah,
square
like,
foot. Other than replacing the septic system, as far as I know, that's what he told me. Is that the way you understand it? And as Beth says, you can use some of that area if your septic fails.
Yeah, I'm not,
I have real issues with this. If our goal is to increase affordable housing, why do we want to make lot size larger?
well, what you're saying is you might require a builder owner to buy a bigger parcel of land to get to the definition of
Net developable
area.
40,000 square feet, yeah.
But how does that, I still don't understand how that ties to the state law that says, in order to have septic, you gotta have at least 20,000 square feet.
It really doesn't, except,
Yeah,
His
there's
theory
no way I'm gonna go to this town and say, I'm gonna require you people to buy more land to build a building.
I'm with you.
No way.
Yeah,
Unless it is like, something that people have come to us and said, we've got a problem, we've got to fix.
and it's my understanding from Jesse.
Because I feel like it's down the road. It's like, it's when we do the comp plan and we figure, because I suspect, I don't know, I bet there's gonna be some move, I don't know if it'll go anywhere, but to change zoning. When
The zoning, yeah, and maybe the lot sizes
it
themselves.
will happen
yeah,
then,
yeah,
and that,
yeah.
we do it all at the same time instead of kind of like.
Yeah, yeah. In talking to Jesse, he says he's not aware of it ever happening, somebody's septic system failing and then needing extra land in this town to actually,
Well, because we have a 40,000
square foot.
square foot minimum as opposed to
Yeah, yeah,
20.
right.
Which I think he's getting to by all these add-ons that kind of bring it down to that, but we live on a rock. I would not, like, it's a so why did they point this out for us, the piece about the kind of rough justice that's already there?
What are you
The
talking about?
land below the north,
Okay,
why did they tell us that?
because Noel came in on another matter and talked to Jesse, and
Just
Jesse
to make
said,
the
hey,
point?
Yes.
this is being proposed,
I
what do
think
you
he's saying-
think? And Noel says, I think it's already, you already have something in there, and he pointed this out.
Yeah, I agree with Noel, yes.
Yeah,
Which, although I do like, look, it's great to propose stuff and poke around and, for, John, Katie, keep it coming, you see things out there. Most of the stuff here, I think, I initially was I was mostly worried about the piece we just talked about, because I read that, I was like, this is crazy, I don't know what we're
net
doing.
developable, or?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because we were talking,
yeah.
the 20,000 square feet, I remember us talking about last time, I was like, oh my God, there's no way, people will kill us.
What do you guys think, Ben?
Essentially.
The other thing that
If issues start showing up, maybe it's something we want to revisit.
If what now?
If we're people are coming and
Right.
saying, gee,
But why would people ever have an issue? Though? If people came and said to us, we want a lesser lot size, we
Yeah.
want, to go down to 20,000 square feet, then you might do something like this. Because then you're starting to put the squeeze, and you don't want someone, having like one, a couple, then I could see it. But I think part of the reason we're at 40,000 square feet, I'm guessing, and we have that language, is we're already kind of trying to figure that out a little bit and make sure that, people aren't building on a little piece of land in a swamp.
right.
Like you can't do that now,
No.
so-
Right. Yeah.
So we done now?
I hope so.
I think we are. Yes, kind of.
No, okay, let's be clear about this. We're okay with the 20% residential change, correct?
I got there.
Yes.
I got there.
Okay, and then here, Lawson was the only one.
my vote is to kick the can down the road and to think through our total, sort of our vision for those zones. But I'm happy to be in the minority on that, and I'm not gonna I don't have veto power or whatever. I'm at, and think more comprehensively about how to treat commercial, the CFMA and the harbor shoreland, and think about the lot size and the lot area, while we're also thinking about lot coverage and setbacks and. But I've said my piece, and I'm not
Okay,
wedded to it.
and we know the net developable area is gone, right?
Nobody's fighting for that.
None of that.
Area, no, okay. The small changes, we were okay with the deleting or no multi-unit residential uses permitted?
Yeah.
Because that was a state thing,
State law,
okay.
yeah.
Harbor shoreland. And the two changes about approval rather than issuing a permit, okay. Okay. And the state law about providing pre and post construction photos and stuff, right?
Yep.
Okay, we were okay with, although we weren't sure whether it should say no or just no permit required, right?
For what?
The roof mounted solar,
I don't think you should say no, right?
that's what,
Correct.
that's
It should
what I'm
not say
saying.
no.
Yeah, yeah,
Or it should
Should
say
we-
yes, straight across, maybe. Treat it like signs. I think
Yeah, I don't know what
that's
the
my-
heck yes means.
yeah, it's a little confusing. Well, see, like we have fire protection, yeah, yes.
You're allowed to do it, you don't need,
Yeah, a permit,
you don't need a permit.
okay.
So that would, yeah.
Yeah, you're right. So, yeah, non-intensive recreational uses,
Roof mounted should be yes.
hunting, fishing, hiking.
So those all should be
Yes.
yes.
A roof mounted would be yes, straight, well, yes, I guess it would be.
I mean, who cares what people put on their roof that falls in,
Yeah.
that's their problem.
Yeah.
Okay, the ground mounted, we're okay with CEO approval there?
Mhm.
And solar power generating system only in the residential business.
That's right.
So the rest of those should be no, correct?
That's right. PB in the RB and no for everything else.
Yeah.
And residential?
No, because
No.
residential,
Just kidding.
yeah, doesn't allow that. And the only other thing was, that I remember anyway, was the definition of residential solar collector, where it says one residential dwelling.
Yeah, would you say or accessory, and accessory buildings? I don't know what our, what our.
I don't know how to word it either.
I think I would word, my recommendation would just be to say, the beginning of all stays the same, or electrical generation requirements. Or residential uses.
Residential.
That's, I don't know, that's my first stab at it, maybe some lawyer would cover that as well, but,
But
and I don't know
that
what.
could I, but then, under that, could I power my neighborhood from my,
From your rooftop collector,
yeah,
yes.
yeah, power my neighborhood with that?
Good
which
luck.
I don't
If
think
you-
it's the intent, it should just be for that particular property.
Should it say something about?
I'm not sure I agree with you. Because I think that I have, it's not quite a plan, but I have a vision of having solar panels on my roof and maybe even in my backyard to power my mother-in-law's house. And so, that's residential uses.
But that's just feeding into the grid.
That's right, yeah, which is that's how I would be powering my neighborhood. I don't
I
have a big
think-
enough roof to do my whole neighborhood.
I think it's an accessory structure. I think it's an accessory structure or use maybe, which are defined terms under our code, which means that an incidental accessory is subordinate to the principal use, which for residential would be residential. I think once you go off your property and you're powering someone else, you're into the generating system
I
category.
don't think so. I mean, like,
Yes, you are.
well, okay, so Joe.
Once you're
Blotnick-
going back out to the grid on back powering another
Yeah.
customer, you're in the solar power generating.
So Brett, there's a house on, Bernard Road.
Right.
that's
but you're
But it
putting
goes
that
to
back
the
into the
grid.
grid.
It goes into the
Well,
grid.
fine, I mean, yeah, but you're still, you're putting that back into the grid.
Okay.
Okay, I mean, that's not a,
Even if at the rooftop, though, you're putting it back to the
Right.
grid in most
Right.
cases. So,
It's on, I mean.
Yeah. Are
well, you
site-
run down a slippery slope, once you start saying that you can start powering other people's houses from your house, I don't know then how you differentiate between that and a
Solar farm,
solar
whatever they
farm.
call it, yeah.
I don't know how you do that.
Lot coverage.
Yeah, we don't have any of that here, right? We have none of those definitions.
Well, I mean, lot coverage we do.
And then what, at
I
what
can't
point,
cover
let's
more
say
than-
you get a bunch of people that start doing that, okay, and start putting back into, at what point does the power company say nope? And who gets to continue to do that and who has to stop?
We're basically there now. Like, the power company's
Well,
already
then,
said
yeah.
you can't build a bigger array. I mean, you can do small ones on your roof, but we can't build a,
Well, I guess my answer then is they'd be grandfathered, but anyone else would need a
You
permit.
have approval from the power company to connect a solar array
Yeah.
to their grid.
Yeah.
And I think their rules are that you can designate one person to receive your excess power.
you can do
what-
net
you got
energy
one.
billing for, I don't know if there's a limit for how many. The array that's in Southwest on the Ocean House has 10 owners, at least.
But that's an array, that's a.
It's a rooftop, I mean, it's a
That-
panel
that's
on top of a
community-
roof.
That's a community solar array, which is a different definition according to the power company.
Maybe. I don't know if it's, I mean, I don't know the power company, and they're probably different than the last time I actually knew, the rules probably changed. But for our zoning purposes, or for our land use purposes, if we're suggesting that rooftop solar is allowed in any district, then I don't think that we should specify how that power is used in the definition of residential solar
Right, I
collector.
mean, that's between you and the power company.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Frankly, I didn't know that you could designate another person getting power, benefiting from power that
From
you
your roof.
generate.
I mean, I
Yeah.
think that's all, that's bookkeeping,
Right.
you know,
Yeah.
that's, I mean, that
That's right,
power that
it's
you
not-
generate might go past there and go to Trenton or whatever, but
Right.
It's a
they know
fungible,
what
it's a
we put back
fungible.
in, and they know what they can allow that person to take as a credit.
So I think that the idea that the residential solar collector like maxes out at one residential dwelling, I think that's what I'm causing issue with in that definition. And that a residential solar collector could generate much more than one residential dwelling.
See, I was thinking, as you probably know, as like in two residential structures on the same property. And this would only limit it to just one, according to the definition.
Right.
I didn't realize you could actually go further than
Go
that,
much further than that, yeah.
which opens up a whole can of worms.
I'm not sure it does.
Not for us, I wouldn't think.
I think that I think we should treat ground mounted different than we do roof mounted. We've done that. And we should treat large scale commercial, or maybe that's called solar power generating system, where it's the principal use on a parcel, where you got a piece of land and it's just a solar farm.
So the definition that he has here is right out of state law.
That's the
Yeah.
main statute, Title 33.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah.
33 MRSA, section 1421.
And that says generation requirements of one residential dwelling.
It defines a solar collector as a device or structure as part of, I'll let you read it.
Yeah.
But it doesn't say residential.
Well, it's all part of the, I haven't read the whole thing, but you can see how what's it called, solar collector?
Yep.
Solar collector has the residential component to it. Of one residential dwelling. But I don't know, I haven't read this.
Right.
Like, I don't know how this all fits. But that's, I was just curious, because he put this here, I was like, well, where do you get that?
Well, the other thing
We can
is,
table this one for now.
This doesn't limit it to rooftop, it could be the ground mounted.
Yeah.
And so,
Right.
I have like 4.5 acres, okay, why can't I build, oh gee, my residential solar collector, through, several acres of it, and then
I think you should be permitted to do so, unless we, as a planning board, don't want that kind of land use. In which case, we should say that your ground-mounted array should only be 1 acre or 10 acres or whatever we want that limit to be for the size of a ground-mounted array.
Well, isn't that limited by the lot coverage?
I think right now that it is.
That's
yeah,
considered
it would be,
structure.
yes, that's true too, there
Yeah.
would be that limitation, yeah.
So you could have 20% of your, you said you had 4 acres, whatever it is,
Yeah.
you could have 20% of that covered.
I'd have to
soil.
deduct the wetlands.
That's true. Yeah. And that to me seems like a fine place for us to be right now. If we want to bring back the solar conversation as part of the comp plan conversation and say, like, are there
So-
ways we want to promote it?
So what he's done here is the law sets a floor, like you get, like, it's actually unlawful to have anything that would be more restrictive than this. So I think what John has done is said, this is what the state as a floor requires, because there's a,
That's helpful.
there's like a,
I think that's the baseline or
yeah,
minimum.
it's probably like 2009, it says you can't have any law or instrument or requirement that would prohibit a person from having a solar panel on their
Right.
house for their house.
We have the rights and privileges
Right.
to generate our own.
So so that's why he did that, and that's why he's done it this way, because, and I thought, where you're talking about is more than the floor,
That's right.
and so, in which we haven't.
This to me sort of reads like a ceiling, like you have a maximum.
Well, it is, I mean,
Of
that's
what?
why, I mean, however you wanna,
Yeah.
well, right now it would be.
Right.
It would be, it would be.
It would be like, you can only
Because
generate
because
enough.
because he's setting what the state, it's what
Yeah.
the state requires right now.
So are we okay with this definition as it is right now?
I'm
No.
not.
Okay. And what do you propose?
I propose that we change it's the end of the third line, where right now it reads generation requirements of 1 residential dwelling. And I am suggesting that that should read the generation requirements of residential uses. And I'm not a wordsmith, but
For residential use?
maybe requirements gets out of there too. So it's
For
let's put
residential
generation
dwellings.
for
Mhm.
residential uses.
Now, when you looked at the state law, did it specifically say residential solar collector or solar collector?
It just says solar collector, but but it uses residential within the definition of a solar collector.
Yeah.
Because it's about, it's about the state. I'm guessing that towns probably at some point didn't even want people to have, because of like views or something, or didn't even want people to have solar panels on their roofs. And the state said, no, you can't have a code that says people can't have solar on their property for their house.
We have the right to
You absolutely have an absolute right to do that.
sunshine.
Yeah, so there's like reasonable restrictions, for things like to protect buildings from damage, historic or aesthetic values, unreasonable, whatever. Shorelands under shoreland zoning provisions, so you could theoretically even say for people in shoreland, you can't have them on your roof, at least under the state.
Yeah.
So we're kind of opening a can of worms a little bit.
I thought somebody said we weren't.
Well, I mean, but I feel,
That's where-
where did the solar discussion land? Like, I don't know where that
Well,
landed.
one of the,
Like, we talked about it for a while and it just kind of died in the vine.
Yeah.
and we were sort of advised from Climate Thrive that like this is not an urgent thing.
Right.
That nobody's asking to build a 10-acre solar array in Tremont.
But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking now about like residential or like, uses, which it sounds like that, there's something there that.
And,
Why don't we find out more? I mean, we can debate about this all night, okay?
yeah,
Why don't we find out more, and if, you know, for residential uses substituting in there, is that meet the legal requirements or not?
Right.
That's a question I have.
I think it would, because it's saying that, yeah, it's broader than what it's more than what the law requires. It'd be more, which is fine.
I think it's the other way around, isn't it? I mean, we
No,
can be,
the
we can be
law
more
says-
restrictive.
The law sets a floor. You cannot be more restrictive than the law. The law says you can generate power for your residential property. That definition would allow you to generate power for someone else's. So that would be more permissive than
Right.
what the law sets as a
requires.
floor.
which is different than other, sometimes we talk about like state laws, us being more restrictive than state laws.
Yeah,
Yeah.
But
That's-
here, we're being less restrictive.
that's right.
And I'm trusting the attorney at the table to say that that's okay.
That's okay. I mean, because
Yeah.
this is just saying you can't, you cannot,
Can't go below that.
you can allow people to do more than that if you want to. But you cannot, like I said, it's from 2009, so I'm
That's
thinking,
amazing, too.
when
Yeah.
people were first putting solar in their,
2009.
on their property,
Right.
towns and people started to say no.
It's also possible that it wasn't in reaction to people wanting to say no. It was promoted by the
Promote,
solar
yeah,
industry.
maybe, yeah.
Was-
It was getting in
that had
front of it, like
lobbyists
getting in
say-
front of it, and
And maybe it
say,
was an issue in some other states, and they said, we want to make sure that solar is a right.
yeah, it's a right for people. It's a right
In Maine.
you have in Maine. They're on to put it on your property for your house. And it, what I also might have been the power companies. They wanted to get ahead of it, because the power companies, they would have lobbied against this. They would not have wanted this.
That's right. Yeah. That's a
Okay.
real thorn in their side or whatever.
So we have all these things we agreed on, and one thing that we're not sure about. You want to just punt this down to our next meeting, down the road to our next meeting, and try to get somebody, maybe have James take a look at
James
Collier, yeah.
I don't
I mean-
think it's a legal issue. I think it's an issue of what do we want? Like, what's our solar strategy? And do we care if, what would this do? I'm trying to think what it would incent. It would incent, well, do
I think
you make money?
incentivizes-
Do you make,
Uh-huh.
so you make money? Okay. So
Well,
you
you
make-
could, right, because I could
You're basically selling power to another person.
I
and
could
then-
tell my mother-in-law that she's gotta pay me,
Right.
or,
Right,
and it
yeah.
doesn't have to be my mother-in-law, right? It could be Joe Schmo down the
Right.
street. I could have my own private little Lawson's solar
Solar thing.
party. Come pay me $10 a month.
Right.
And
Well, does in that situation, that you were talking about where someone's providing power to someone else's house, it is a bookkeeping thing. I'm curious, I'm curious how the bookkeeping works. I mean, do you get does the generator get a check?
Versant takes care of it, no, Versant takes care of it.
so
On both bills.
Right,
They
so like for the
adjust
Plotniks-
Generators, they address the sun.
it's, like that's just like pretty small. It's in-house. It's like for one people. For somebody like Ocean House, where it's a bigger, like there are 10 people who own that array, then it's still Versant doing the bookkeeping. But I don't think that it's
Do people make money on it like that?
let's see. Who's making
I'm just trying to figure out
money?
what the incentives
So-
might be.
I guess the owners of the array for the community solar farm model, they're essentially like, they're prepaying their bill, like, and then it's just like they're having panels on the roof, where they get free electricity after they pay off their panels. So that's good for them, like, they're not really making money, they're just not spending money, they're getting.
So it perfectly balances out, the electricity that you generate is exactly what your use is?
Almost never, because you only generate like
So you generate
80%,
less?
and you still have to pay the remainder every month.
Okay.
But instead of paying $100 a month, you're paying $15.
So you're never generating more than you're using?
If you do, you throw that away. You have a year to use it, so it can balance out from month to month.
Okay,
but
okay. So you don't get a check though?
No, you don't
Yeah,
get
so-
cash in your pocket.
Yeah. I'm scared, I don't know.
I thought if you generated more than you used, anything extra that Versant, they knew how much you made
Yep.
and how much you used, that money, they would pay you the difference.
You can get that credit, but you're not gonna get money in your pocket you have 12 months to use it, so like, you might get
Oh,
that
yeah,
credit
yeah, yeah.
in the summertime and then use it up in the
In the
wintertime.
winter, or whatever, yeah, it's a roll, yeah,
But-
it's like paid time off.
But if you end up putting twice as many panels on your roof as than you need, that's good for Versant. Versant ends up getting us, cheap electricity from it, but I don't think you're gonna get a check in your pocket.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, so how does this person in Southwest get their bill?
They still get a bill every month, and sometimes there's
So
A little
that,
bit,
that
it's
extra that
less.
they generate goes to that
credits,
person's bill.
exactly, yeah, so, their array is bigger than they need in Bernard, but it's less than Bernard plus their Southwest house.
So the natural, you can only designate one other place? Is that?
I think
what
it's
heard?
more, no, I think you can do more than that. You can have more than one.
It's fascinating. I try
Yeah.
to understand the incentives, like what could be the, because if you don't make any money on it.
It's the right thing to do.
Well, no, you're,
Yeah,
and
well-
it's cheap,
well-
it's a lot cheaper, it's cheaper for me, assuming I've got all this cash sitting in my pocket, which I know.
Yeah.
If I can pay $20,000 now for my solar panels and then stop paying my electric bill,
Yeah,
in about 10 to 13 years, it pays for itself.
yeah.
And so, and that's sort of like, if I'm also
But,
paying my mother-in-law's bill.
I get that, okay, I get, yeah, I get the personal,
Like incentive,
motive.
right.
But I'm trying to understand that if you start supplying power to other people,
Uh-huh.
does it, are houses just gonna be cloaked in panels, certain, so they can power other, like,
I mean, our grid can't support that. Right now, basically Versant would say, like, at some point they're gonna say, no, Lawson, you can't build more panels. Like, you
Yeah.
can only put on so many panels. I'm not even to that point yet, but they'll say like, no, you can't.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we're not gonna do that with you anyway, but.
so what would be the difference between that and if you could designate more than one, a solar power generating system that we have down that says no, no, no?
Right. I think that it's a principal use issue.
Commercial enterprise is the difference, okay?
Right.
Well, but, yeah, so I guess they're making money, they're actually making money, whereas
Yeah,
he's saving money.
yeah, and helping, he wants to save his mother-in-law money too.
Yeah, but he's not charging her, but he could.
But I could, but
He could.
the ordinance doesn't care about that.
Long
Because
as
it's
it
not a
stays on
commercial
the good
enterprise.
side.
But if, the point at which,
Depends how well he gets along with his mother-in-law.
well, and like if I realize this is a really great enterprise and decide to bulldoze my house and just pave my forest with solar panels, then it becomes a commercial enterprise and it would not be allowed in the rural residential zone. I could not do that. I'll also sell credits to you, Brett, too. That's my mother-in-law. If
I
you
need
want
some.
cheap energy.
I need some. It's like $260 a month or something.
Yeah.
Should we put something in the residential solar collector saying non-commercial? For non-commercial generation?
I guess, I think that if it says for electrical generation for residential uses, that seems to mean non-commercial.
Okay, so a solar farm is selling it to people with residential
Yeah.
homes. That's commercial. We have in the definition of solar power generating system, it does say as a commercial enterprise.
And a residential solar collector would not be a commercial enterprise,
Well, should it say that in the definition specifically?
maybe? And do we define commercial enterprise? Maybe we don't need to. Webster does that for us.
Yeah, I think
Commer-
it's,
yeah,
like, that's the
we
thing,
would-
where you're
we
getting,
just
they
rely
get
on the
paid for it.
dictionary's
I think it's
definition
it's the
of
way you're getting
commercial.
paid. To me, it's whether you're generating revenue.
There is commercial use in our ordinance. Yeah, production of income, buying or selling of goods or services.
Is that what it says?
Yeah, so,
So I think it'd be okay.
right, until I start selling it to lots, if I were to start selling it to you and I'm generating income, that to me sounds like a commercial enterprise.
That'd be commercial, yeah.
And
That's
so,
right, and then but I think you'd cross over into the,
But if you give it to your mother-in-law, or you gave it to Brett, let's say,
Right.
it's no problem.
It's no problem.
Now, if you and Brett worked out a deal where, you know, under the table, he's slipping you some cash, we don't
Right.
care about that.
right.
Can we move on here?
Yep.
Yeah. I'm
But we
okay
don't,
with that.
haven't come to any agreement, right? I think maybe the non-commercial might be the way to go in there.
It's true, I think. I mean, I don't know how you get away
maybe
from.
maybe we don't say residential, maybe we say, so at the end there, it says water heating, space cooling, or electrical generation for non-commercial uses.
And also, here's something, yeah, it says residential, okay? My neighbor at the boatyard, he's got solar panels, use it, he's not resident, it's not residential use.
So that's not a residential solar collector.
Where does it fall then? It's not,
So then it's not permitted, and it's a roof mounted, it should be.
it should be permitted. He uses
Maybe we
it,
don't care about residential versus, maybe it shouldn't say
it
residential.
shouldn't say
solar collector.
residential, maybe,
We should be roof mounted or ground mounted.
for non-commercial.
I think that's true. That's at least partially true. I mean, I'd like to think about it some more, but I think that's true.
Yep.
Yeah. Because if it's non-commercial, it's gonna be, you know, you're gonna be using it yourself unless you're just giving it away, which you're probably not gonna do.
Yeah, I mean,
But
and John, he may do it with his house down here too. He
Yeah.
might use some of that power to offset his bill in his house, but that, we don't care about that. It's still not commercial.
isn't it a
I mean,
commercial?
resident,
Right, isn't John's solar, like, that's a commercial use,
Yeah.
Why?
well, he's a commercial
it's
business,
a commercial business.
but
But
the
the
power that he's
generation of that
generating,
power is not.
just, yeah, it's just not for residential use, because he doesn't live in one of his boat sheds.
Right. He's not, and he's not selling the power.
And he's not selling the power, yeah. I say strike out residential and put non-commercial use. Requirements for non-commercial use. Or you could say residential or other non-commercial uses.
So are you changing the definition from residential solar collector to non-commercial solar collector?
I think you
Yeah,
have to.
yeah, you'd have to change that too, yeah.
And in the table of land uses, line 30 changes from residential solar collector to non-commercial solar collector.
I think it has to.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep. And does 31 change to commercial solar power?
That's in the
It's in the
definition
definition
already.
Already, yeah.
Great.
Commercial enterprise. You said we had a definition somewhere, of commercial.
Yeah, in the land use ordinance, blah, 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 but, you know, activity is the production of income, the buying and selling of goods and services.
Oh, it's basically to the land, though. It's not.
Use of lands, buildings,
Yeah,
or
but-
structures other than home occupation is defined below.
Yeah, but it's not, it doesn't fit here.
You don't think so?
No.
The ground-mounted solar array would be a structure that's used for producing income by
Oh, maybe it
selling
does.
goods.
Free the use of land. Activities. Yeah, maybe it would. So maybe instead of commercial enterprise, it would say as a commercial use, it would actually use, we would use our definition.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
capital C, capital U.
Having fun yet, Katie?
Just trying to take you down.
So what you're proposing that the commercial enterprise should change to commercial use as
I think it
defined.
should track our definitions.
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
I think that works. I
Yep.
think-
And which does not meet the definition of non-commercial solar collector.
Yeah. It's very circuitous, but. It's all
Solar
right.
collectors that are commercial and not non-commercial.
Okay. You get what we're talking about?
Yes. I just wanna make sure I
I'm
have.
glad
it
you
written
do.
down. Well, I get what you're saying, I don't know if I understand.
Not sure I do anymore.
I think it makes sense.
Okay, so the definition for residential solar collector will change to non-commercial residential solar collector,
Nope.
correct?
Residential goes, it's just, you don't even say residential, right? Because you.
That's correct.
Non-commercial
Non-commercial.
solar collector.
Yeah.
Okay, get rid of the residential.
Yeah.
Okay. Non-commercial. This advice on and on and on. And electricity generation requirements
Not
for,
requirements, just electricity generation for non-commercial uses.
for non-commercial uses. Okay. Is that covered? Oh, and on the table, land use table. Residential solar collector has to go be changed to non-commercial solar collector,
Yep.
correct?
I'm sorry, Katie, I was wrong. You do need the word requirements in there. Because we're meeting the water heating, space cooling, and electrical generation requirements. So we're meeting the requirements of non-commercial uses.
I got you.
It's not a very well-written sentence, but I think that the subjects and objects all line up, then we leave requirements in
So
there.
requirements is still going to be there, correct?
Right. We can always pre up the pros there at some point if we have to. What do you say down this end of the table? It all sound make sense to you?
Yes.
Are you sure now? I'm confused.
Who invited Brett and Lawson to this party? That's what they're saying down there. Bunch of
Yeah.
nitpicking
Okay,
do-gooders. Figure it out.
so do you want to vote on this or you want to wait and have?
No.
Okay, okay.
Let's have a proposal that,
Okay.
a revised version.
Yeah, sounds good. Sounds good to me. Okay, we all done with that, folks, or do you want to be here another couple hours?
Not personally.
Come on, you're getting paid. No, I guess we are, but not much. Okay, next up, planning board meeting schedule. Well, other than an eye appointment I have in February, I think my schedule's pretty open for next year. So it looks okay to me.
Thank you for.
Yes.
It's okay.
It's helpful to have that,
Yeah.
that in there.
And that's during the day, so I won't miss the meeting.
Speaking of eye appointments, is there any way we could make that type any smaller?
Yeah, it's a little easy to
I
read.
get the first group, and I said, boy, is that small, and then I got to that piece, and I said, my God, I can't even read it.
Well, it's a little bigger in the book.
Yeah.
In my defense, I just took the Word document, yeah.
Print, yeah.
I did, but as you can see, since I did the changes in red, it took out part of the side of the page and I couldn't get it to print correctly, so it's even smaller, I'm sorry, but.
You want a motion to adopt this schedule, right? Yeah.
I
I'll
said,
take-
well,
Okay, second,
Okay, we have a motion second on the table to adopt the 2024 planning board meeting schedule. It is getting late. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'll call for a vote. All in favor? Okay, we're all set. Okay. CEO issues, nothing to report, eh?
No, sir.
Okay. Set date for the next meeting, November 28th. Is that right? I'll take a motion for that.
I so move.
second.
Time and place,
I'll-
please, in the motion.
I'll make a motion to schedule the next meeting for Tuesday, November 28th, at 6 PM here in the Harvey Clay meeting room.
Second.
Okay. Motion and second on the table, Schedule, boy, now they're throwing things at us. Set the date for the next meeting for November 28th, 6 PM, right here in the Harvey Kelly Meeting Room. All in favor? Okay. Take a motion to adjourn at 7:34 PM.
Second.
Motion second on the table to adjourn at 7:34 PM. All in favor? Aye, unanimous. Okay, thanks, folks. Very good job. I know it wasn't easy, but we did it.
Slugged it out.
Yeah. See ya.
Yeah, see ya.
Everyone have a good
Been waiting long.
Thanksgiving.
Hey, yes, you
Yeah.
do.
That means, no news is good news at the moment. But thank you.
Are you guys hosting, or-
Thinking of David as well.
What's that?
Are you hosting Thanksgiving, or?
No, I'm going down to the Veterans Club in Franklin, to
Well, tell him I'm
volunteer.
thinking
About
of.
30 years.
That sounds cool.
Good time.
What are you doing, man?
Going down to the Veterans Club in Franklin, they have a free dinner for everyone, and I'm down and help.
Oh, okay.
Katie said-
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Are you a veteran, or you just go down and help?
No, I could use the extra help, so I just get out and help.
Okay,
You're
great.
such a good boy, Ben.
Oh, no, no matter what they say.
Is the tape off?
Oh.
Oh. Someone was gonna ask you, and I can't remember what it was now.